scooting a little closer to the mic, please. Thanks.
That's not a question.
It actually was. What do you mind? He just did.
I would mind.
Chris, will you talk a little bit about the emotion on the practice field after Saturday's win? I would assume that's been a lifting the spirits.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of emotion that was involved in last Saturday's win, and it's carried over to practice, I'd say, but it needs to be something that's more or less put aside. Our celebration time for that's over, and you start focusing on Wisconsin and getting everything down with that, and not thinking we can get an automatic win based off of something that happened last weekend.
And having said that, though, I mean, after the tough start that you guys had, it had to have been kind of uplifting to get a big win like that.
Definitely, it definitely was. You know, especially in the home opener, we feel like we obviously didn't play to our full potential, and we've had a lot of improvements since then, and it's nice to see your improvements show up on the field, and we need to keep those to continue improving and have them keep showing up on the field on Saturdays.
Since that win against Indiana, you've seen kind of like a change in emotion, kind of not just in the team but around BG and around campus as well.
Yeah, obviously there was a lot of hype before the season, and it seemed like there was a lot of doubt then after week 1, and coming after this win, a lot of people's opinions seem to have changed, and you know, a lot of fans around campus, a lot of people have a buzz and a spark about the team again that seemed to maybe have gone away a little bit after week 1, and it's definitely returned, and we got a lot of backing now. So.
Did you guys feel like you had to almost prove something after the way you started? Did this help prove something, you think?
Yeah, I guess it would. It did a little bit, but there's a lot more to prove for us. You know, we don't feel like this is something that is an end-all. You know, we have a lot more to prove, not just this Saturday, but also in our Mid-American Conference schedule and throughout the rest of the season.
Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen from Wisconsin's defense on film?
Wisconsin is always a team with a pretty stout defense, and they like to mix it up. They got a bunch of different looks, and they got a lot of good players on defense, and a lot of good players on the D-line and linebackers, which is what I'm more focused on, obviously. And they like to bring a lot of pressure and mix things up, get the offense a little confused, and it'll definitely be a fun challenge.
Can you talk a little bit about the atmosphere at Camp Randall? I mean, have you guys talked about it, heard about it? What do you know?
Oh yeah, there's definitely emphasis on it, especially going into any big stadium you play in, and you know, Camp Randall's one that has a lot more notoriety than a lot of places. So there's been a lot of emphasis on being locked into the play calls and snap counts, and you know, working on silent cadences and stuff like that, so we can get everything down and all be on the same page.
Have you practiced indoors this week with music or anything?
We have not been indoors yet, no.
You've been?
Yeah, we've had our practices outside so far.
So he hasn't replicated any loud noises outside or anything, because it's pretty darn loud up there.
Yeah, we haven't done any replication of loud noises. We've been working on a lot of our silent cadences and stuff like that, but noise-wise, we haven't done anything along those lines.
Chris, you've been around a while. You've played, obviously, with several different quarterbacks now in your career. Talk about James's development, what you've seen in him the last couple of games.
You know, obviously there was some concern when Matt went down, but we all knew, at least as a team, that we had a pretty outstanding quarterback that could come in and replace him. And you know, now that he's got confidence under him, I feel like he's raring to go. And I think it showed definitely last Saturday that he's more than capable of accomplishing all he needs to physically. And now after that, I think the mental aspect's more than there for him. And we all got his back, and I think we're ready to go with him.
Having played in loud places in years past, the swamp and things like that, are there lessons you can learn from that to take into Saturday?
You know, there's always concern when you go into play somewhere that the noise level is more than normal. The biggest thing is it gets a lot of confusion with your checks and your play calls and your cadences and snap counts and stuff. And you know, the biggest thing is just not to freak out and make sure everybody's on the same page, and you gotta echo your calls a lot more than you would somewhere, and you just gotta be more locked in. There's a lot more mental aspect that goes into it when you're playing somewhere like that than other places across the country.
Isn't there kind of more mental aspect just playing a team like Wisconsin where you know that they've got athletes all over the field?
Yeah. You got to be more locked in, and you have a bigger challenge than you would against some other teams just because of their conference and the type of athletes that they have on the field. You just have to step everything up a little bit more than you would for other games maybe, and you got to be locked in and focus more than what you have for other games. But it's another team, another challenge, just like anybody else, and the focus level should be there, and it should be just as good, if not greater, than every other game we play.
You say it's a bigger challenge with its conference. Obviously, the game is on the road, but you just beat that conference a few days ago.
Yeah, that is true, but it does, like you said, it's a little bit different playing at the Doyd against Indiana than it would be against playing at Wisconsin and Camp Randall. I'm assuming Camp Randall is going to be louder than the Doyd typically is. Not to knock our fans by any means, but 80,000 compared to, or I don't know exactly what ours is, around 25 maybe. And there is some confidence there coming off of a win against Indiana, but Indiana and Wisconsin are different teams, and it's in a completely different environment. So.
Anything else for Chris? Thanks, Chris.